Good evening, all. Hope you're doing well. We're in a state of caution. What's happened is that the herd are getting squeezed out of their positions. We are still very much bullish on the big picture. That isn't really going to change very quickly. We're probably going to see very gradual movement towards zero if we're going to continue to see the herd, the bears getting squeezed out, which is what we have seen. And we've seen a fairly sizable chunk of bears being kicked out, and because of that, it's going to make this number go closer to zero. If we go into positive territory, it tells us that the herd are net long, and that would be really, really weird and unusual because they're conditioned to sell. So that is conducive to this. So when they're going to go long or less short, it's going to impact price performance. And a lot of people say, oh, the sentiment's not that powerful, but we know by looking at the crossover in the FXEM setup, it's highly accurate. And we know that this setup here on the risk calculation has been really reliable as well. And we had the heads up, and it had the forecastability of the drop that we saw in 2020. I was saying, everyone, be careful, because what's happening now is that they're going that long. And then a couple of weeks later, we had that thing in Wuhan, in China, and then it just spread. And then the herd were long. And of course, when we did go fundamentally risk off, they were caught. And so it gave us a really nice heads up in advance of the big, massive decline. So I'm not saying that we're going to have another crash, but this will indicate if a crash is likely going to happen. And it will be more likely when this gets closer to zero. Okay, because it's just the way it works. There has to be an exchange, a transaction of trades, and if the small fish they're going to change their mind and they're going to be conditioned to sell. If they're conditioned to buy, there has to be something to take the other side of that trade. Right? It's all to do with the psychology of the big fish and the small fish, and there has to be a give and take and that movement of positions. So that's that. So we are in a state of caution. If this drops, if we have a bearish day tomorrow, then we'll be in fear. Right? Okay, so that's if we remain bearish with a low score on the technicals, we'll be fear, but we won't be extreme fear because of this sell here, right? Because the herd are very short. So an interesting development coming up, and we can see that we've got reds and greens, but that feeds into this. Okay, so if they're going to go long, we should see price fall, and it's just horribly engineered to destroy them. So yeah, caution. So just got to be careful. And Tesla's doing all right today, and the indices are negative. VIX is positive, so that's of note. The Treasury yield is down, the 10-year, and the dollar is just sitting on the fence. It hasn't really done much at all. They're probably trying to avoid a strong USD because it can act as like a wrecking ball, like a ball in the china shop. They don't really want a big wrecking ball, and it can do a lot of destruction. So they're probably trying to avoid a strong dollar. That's what I think. That's why we're seeing some weird price action with the Euro USD, which I'll talk about when we get to the robot. And so how have we gone? So we see them moving on US 30. So if we have a big movement like this next week, we could actually be into positive territory on the Dow Jones. So we come from -6 to -3. That's a big leap. If we do a similar leap this time next week, we could be in positive territory, and then we'll be quite bearish. Right, so be really careful, okay? So that's the big mover that's impacted this, right? So this time next week it's going to get really interesting. So that's that. QDB sentiments, no, actually QDB scores. Now our trade, the dollar Swiss, is going well. We're up quite nicely from across, up 0.5. So it's a really good day for us. We're very happy. Logic for that long is simply the clarity that we had between that column and that column. See that we've got green, green. That's like thumbs up. Well, it's a double thumbs up because that's got a fundamental like a scoring mechanism that takes into account the COT data, the GDP, the unemployment, the interest rate, the inflation, and then this part is the score change, which takes into account the sentiment stuff that we look at in the QDB service. And so if that's got a positive score, it's because it's more of a buy sentimentally and technically, and this is the fundamental column. So it's a really powerful setup, and that explains why the dollar Swiss has done well. And so that's great. So let's quickly eye this. Oh, look, pound Swiss. We have a setup. We actually could be looking for longs on pound Swiss. My only hesitation would be this. And there's no one left to squeeze. So if we ignore that, it would be a good long, but we've got to be careful at the extremes. We should be really careful because the market should be in a state of like equilibrium. It should be around 50%. Shouldn't really exceed 20%. It shouldn't really exceed 80%, but we've gone to 95% short. Right, so I mean, we can certainly go long, but there's going to be a breaking point, and we could see a huge reversal. So it's something that we could look at for sure. We can definitely look at it tomorrow. I'll put something in Discord, and we can look at pound Swiss, and with the caveat that we are very extreme. So there's obviously a caution warranted. So that's of note. And that's it, I think. Just scrolling up and down to my eyes. Yeah, perhaps AJ might, but we're going to have to wait for that fundamental data to go positive. So so far so good. It's really, it's a great day for us. The dollar Swiss did really well, and we took the SLC out, and I think we may try and get the SLC above. So we've already taken this one, which I thought maybe that could have been a good target. But I was saying, we could probably try and target 2R, and there's our entry, 89.95. The stop was at 30 pips. It was just below this low. So we are in nice profits. We're greater than a 1R, but I'd really ideally like to get a 2R. So there's our stop down here. All right, and then that's our entry. And TP is 90.53 if we want a 2R. So we're close. There we go. So it's just there. So we're very close to a 2R target. And then at 90.80 was the 3R, which I don't know if we will get to. If we get here at 2R, pretty happy. Considering the crazy market that we're experiencing, I think that's a good result. Robot is just purely technical at the moment because we need to do some basic like sanity checks on the technicals to make sure that the technicals are right and the timing of them is good, because we're not using sentiment at all and we're not using the Twitter API. It's simply when the Euro USD becomes a buy or a sell on the 15-minute time frame, it will trigger instantly into MetaTrader 4. So it's just a purely like a black box test of the technicals, and now we get this to work and make us nice profits, then we can add sentiment on top. But the reason why we're testing this is that we've gone from daily technicals to 15 minutes. That's a huge change. Okay, and so far the reason for that is that we wanted to make it more responsive, and so far it's okay. Tomorrow is going to be a better test because we'll have a clean start, because we put this in the morning. We want to leave this run without any interruptions, and it should be fine, but we'll have to wait and see. And I think it might be all right with the TP and SL at 20 pips, so we can come to EU. It looks quite messy because I've got lots of lines, but basically this is how we're forecast. They're not aggressive TPs or SLs because we had wide stops and then they would get triggered, and it was really bad for our profit. So we need to get the stops tighter, but if we do that, we need to do the TP in an equal distance. And with the technicals, we'd assume that we should be hitting more in profit than losses. So we obviously had sales as per technical indicators, so we should be coming down to the TPs down here. but we'll have to wait and see. So it's a good day for us for the dollar Swiss. Robots okay, but tomorrow is going to be a better test, and I think we maybe gonna be getting to a point of interest this time next week with the US 30. And I guess I could quickly show you the indices quickly. Gold was bonkers today. It was actually crazy. If you remember, we made an inverted head and shoulders, left shoulder, head, right shoulder, and then of course at that point they sold, and then we came down to the support. Yeah, there, and then we made the buy with this right shoulder support area. Up we came, and we really pumped. I think probably to clear out some positions before the PCE data. But you know, I was saying, well, we were all saying in Discord this is going to be a buy, and it just confirmed it with with the buy setup that we had, and it really rocketed really strongly. And I wondered whether or not it was to do with news, but there's nothing in the news that I saw. So I wonder if it's just a clear out of bears maybe. And also of note, 2020, 2220 is the SLC. So it's up here. Okay, and so I might look at the US 30 because that's going to be one to watch this time next week. But that's the shifting, all right? So if we see this continue, we see more of this stuff, we're going to be a sell at the big picture. Okay, so we see more of this, then we're going to continue south on price action, all right? Now, the things that they'd sold, so we should be above this candle. And I put something in Discord, I couldn't believe that they'd sold it because I thought we were like hitting a turning point, and we clearly haven't. They still want to sell it. So it's really frustrating. So we should be above this box because of that. Okay, and likewise US 30, then we can just wrap up the video. And are they selling it? Yeah, they are. Here. Went long, so price fell. They're going to sell it because price has fallen. But always looking at price action, recent price action. And so if they're looking at that, they're going, well, that's bearish, so I'm going to sell it. But of course, it's going to probably reverse on them because they don't realize that they're creating a herd. They think that they're just trading in isolation, but they're not. And so this is likely possibly a trap because it looks like they're selling it. And we're probably going to have to be above this box. So we can revisit this tomorrow, I think. And all eyes on that Friday PCE data because we've got that power speech as well. And it's likely going to be a trap here, potentially. And that's today's video. So well done if you made some profits. You know, in this market, it's quite tricky. It's pretty difficult. You know, and your profits are outweighing your losses. That's really cool. And keep disciplined and focused. And I'm around if you need me. And if you want to help test the robot, let me know. And you'd be more than welcome. But it will be for Patreon members at Bulletin tier and above. I'm trying to get people on the light tier to test, but I haven't had that much interest on the light tier, probably because people want to get more content perhaps, but we can have it for the light tier, but I haven't had that much interest in it, so perhaps I need to advertise it again. But if you're subscribing, then you're more than welcome to test the robot, and more testers would be great. So I'll speak to you guys soon. Remember to trade safely.